Еще раз, пожалуйста.
Cultural learnings for the glorious nation of America. Very nice.
Very nice.
Not.
Oh, Nat. Oh, okay, I'm not the best Borat, but you nailed that one.
Well, my sister is number 4.
This vantage point, it's almost like these bureaucrats are protecting Nazarbayev.
Well, in case of any uprising, there's going to be 1,000 people coming out of each entrance and just build a human wall that will never, that will guarantee that he'll stay in power forever.
Welcome to the FreeManCast.
Welcome to Kazakhstan. My name is Josh Friedman. I am hosting this edition of the FreeManCast from the Kazakh capital of Astana, where I am joined by our special guest today, Sergey Nikolenko. Sergey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks.
And could you please introduce yourself just a little bit, tell our audience a little bit about who you are and where you come from?
Well, I'm a citizen of Kazakhstan. I live here. I live in a city not far, about 300 miles north. It's a predominantly Russian city called Pavlodar. And I'm joining my friend, Josh, that I met
Earlier this year in Tbilisi.
In Tbilisi, on the way from Georgia to Armenia. And we stayed in touch ever since. So now he's one of the few friends that actually came over to see me here.
How often does a Westerner, come visit you in
second
Kazakhstan?
Person, because nobody else from California agrees to fly further than Moscow.
Well, they're missing out, especially on a day like this.
It's a really beautiful day.
And in a location like this. So we're coming to you from my Airbnb apartment here in Astana. This building is called the Northern Lights. How do you say that in Russian?
Северное сияние.
Yeah, and this location is absolutely incredible. We're overlooking pretty much the core of the country, I would say, at least in the political sense, where this building, can you introduce the audience to the Bayterik?
So that's the symbol of the country, Bayterik. It represents the sun on a tree. There's this Kazakh fairy tale and a story behind it that I'm not really aware of. But people just call it a lollipop because it looks like a lollipop.
And we just went up to the top of the lollipop.
Yeah. Where we could put a hand on a golden triangle with the hand of the leader of the country, Nursultan Nazarbayev, who's been the leader of the country since 1991, and he doesn't get reelected because he's the leader ever since.
Okay, so on this edition of the FreeManCast, we are going to be discussing President Nazarbayev, and we'll be chatting a little bit about the Illuminati and whether or not there really is Illuminati influence here, or this is the capital of the Illuminati's New World Order. I don't know exactly what you're going to say on that matter, but I'm curious to get your perspective as those theories are floating around the internet. But while we're discussing some of the architecture and cityscape here, why don't we try to show our audience or point them to Mr. Nazarbayev's home?
I think this is the White House, also known as Akorda. Ak stands for white, Orda stands for I believe it pretty much means the capital where the Kazakh Khan would stay, like stationary. So, and that's where he lives, right over there. And he has a really beautiful view from over there. He can see the symbol of the country, the Bayterik, and a lot of skyscrapers, and nice alley that is perfectly aligned. That's where the Illuminati theory comes in.
So that's what I was going to ask you about first, the alignment of the city center. The Bayterik is perfectly aligned with the White House or the presidential palace, and there are other, I guess, some of the ministries or other buildings are perfectly aligned with the Bayterik. Can you?
So as you can see, those two towers, those are like the Golden Gates, and on both sides, symmetrically, you have the really like a long wall looking. It's called the House of Ministries. So every entrance is a separate ministry or branch of it, like a huge wall of bureaucrats, in other words.
Yeah, I just I just came up with the nickname. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
gonna stick, but I
love it.
I have dubbed that building, or those two buildings, the
Yeah.
Great Wall of Bureaucrats, or the Great Divided Wall of Bureaucrats, or the Two Great Walls of Bureaucrats. And I guess from this vantage point, it's almost like these bureaucrats are protecting
Well, in case
Nazarbayev.
of any uprising, there's going to be 1,000 people coming out of each entrance and just build just a human wall that will never, that will guarantee that he'll stay in power forever.
As some context, this is Central Asia, so,
Yeah,
these,
so it's really
these
really
things,
common to
These
say.
things aren't out of the norm to be discussing or theorizing about potential uprisings and overthrows of leaders.
That's true.
Although Nazarbayev seems to have navigated the post-Soviet political landscape better than anyone. He was in power even, I mean, in Kazakhstan, before the collapse of the Soviet Union,
Yes.
he was already in power, right?
He was already in power, and he seemed like a good leader. And I personally feel if only it was him instead of Gorbachev, so the Soviet Union would remain. Because
Really?
he doesn't seem like a traitor. He's real loyal to the idea and to the. He has integrity with his values, unlike Gorbachev.
Okay, so
But that's
well, I mean,
different
without
topic,
without
yeah.
debating the merits of perestroika, Gorbachev, all of that, let's get a little bit of background on your perspective and what's behind that. So you are Russian
Well, yeah, in
nationality?
Kazakhstan, everybody
Ukrainian?
who's not Kazakh, you basically consider yourself Russian. Although my passport says my ethnicity is Ukrainian, and I know a bunch of other people whose ethnicity is ethnic German or Romanian, but they all identify as Russians simply because we're Russian speakers.
So here in Kazakhstan, ethnically speaking, everyone is identified or classified basically as Kazakh or Russian?
Well, we still have the paragraph 5 of the Soviet passport where they would write your national ethnicity. And in Russia it was abandoned, but in Kazakhstan it still remains as a part of their identity document, and even for foreign travel, traveling abroad, they write it in your international passport. So it's quite a backwards looking policy,
And
in my opinion.
can you share briefly a little bit about the Russian experience in Kazakhstan? I mean, modern Kazakhstan, what it's like to be Russian here?
Well, we're pretty comfortable here, considering that there is still 30% of Russians living in the country. The Russian language is very common, especially where I live. A lot of Kazakhs speak Russian as their mother tongue, and most of the media comes from Russia, so Russians have access to education in Russian language, although it's shifting. They're trying to do more and more. So basically, Russians keep studying in Russian. It's just the shift goes that Kazakhs opt for the Kazakh language in everything, and that's what the state encourages. They're trying to push for Latinization of the Kazakh alphabet, which to me sounds like just a distraction from the real problems that the country is facing, like economic devaluation of the currency and all that stuff.
Let's hit on that one briefly. That happened with the devaluation was a couple years ago? When
Yeah,
was
it's
it?
been like almost like 2 years, I would say.
And that was a major devaluation.
Yeah, it was overnight devaluation. They didn't choose the slow devaluation like they did in Russia, where you could predict and expect what the exchange rate will be. So it was a shocker once, and then it devalued again. Although all the ministers promised that it's not going to happen, but don't trust your state officials; they're going to lie to you.
So that hurt,
That hurt a lot of pockets.
or a lot of ordinary Kazakhs or Kazakhstanis.
It hurt everybody. That basically over the night you were earning $500 a month, and over the night it turned into $250 a month. So you no longer can afford your foreign trips that much.
But it would be advantageous to exporters and tourists.
Well, tourism industry, it's really expensive to come here, except for recent Wizz Air flights. Although Kazakhstan is still not on the top major tourist destinations. Although after the movie Borat, as I know. As the state officials admitted, the number of people visiting has increased dramatically. I think it's like 3 times or 4 times more than it was before. Because like I guess there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, people.
From my vantage point, I guess from my experience, what I'm doing right now is the reverse of Borat.
Oh yeah, cultural learnings for the glorious of the American people in Kazakhstan. Nice.
Еще раз, пожалуйста.
Cultural learnings for the glorious nation of America. Very nice.
Very nice.
Not.
Oh, Nat. Oh, okay, I'm not the best Borat, but you nailed that one.
Well, my sister's number 4. And I'm supposed to have a trophy where I show that my sister's really number 4.
The number 4
prostitute of all Kazakhstan. Yeah. Allegedly, we have a competition.
So you were not offended whatsoever.
I love the show. I mean, I think it was unless you have a really inflamed ego or your feelings get hurt easily, then probably the movie's not for you. But if you like a good laugh, that's a good one. Just don't take anything seriously. He was mocking American people, not the people of Kazakhstan.
And did people here figure that out?
The state officials, they did not. The people did, yeah. But the Nazarbayev himself didn't like it. He did not allow the movie to go to the movie theaters to be shown.
Did he make public statements about Borat? Did he give a speech about Borat?
Was
there the Nazarbayev Borat speech?
There was one when he actually explained to people that has nothing to do with us. It's an American actor making fun of American people and American cultural ignorance. So
he understood it.
So he understood it and he explained it to the most people, but still he didn't want it to be shown in movie theaters or anyhow like popularized among the population.
Were people getting it off torrent?
Yeah,
I assume people were curious to watch it.
Yeah, people watched it. People watched it a lot. You get it off Kontakte, like your source of illegal media content.
But back in 2006, there was no...
There was Kontakte already.
There was already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the speed of the internet, like the quality wasn't that good, but
I didn't
that's
know
why
that.
I watched. Yeah, there was. I remember for sure. Yeah, there was.
How about we chat about the Illuminati?
Oh, the Illuminati. The theory. I heard
Okay,
of.
so the background to this is that if you punch Astana into YouTube, you're probably gonna get your computer screen blown up with videos about the Illuminati and how this backdrop, this is incredibly beautiful. I've never had a backdrop.
And it's really lucky.
I have never had the weather is perfect timing. I've never had a backdrop in a podcast this amazing. But that aside, so there are theories all over the internet that because of the alignment of the buildings, because of the sun and pyramids that are here.
Oh yeah, behind the White House is a river, and behind the river there's a building shaped like a pyramid, known as a National Palace of Peace and Accord. I think that would be the translation into English. And that's the place where the Syria peace talks take place, in that building.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they take place there.
Oh, that's
I don't
interesting.
think I mentioned that before.
So maybe it was a big plan. I mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
the Illuminati from the get-go planned the war in Syria and the peace to come from Astana and the New World Order to come into existence from here.
I think it was more coincidence and the willingness of Russia to promote its few allies, only 2 allies with Belarus and Kazakhstan, are probably 2 countries that remained loyal to Russia and President Putin through all those conflicts and crises. So as a way to thank President Nazarbayev, the only leader of the country so far, and give more importance to the city, the beautiful building, the beautiful pyramid-shaped palace. I guess that's why Astana was chosen as a place for this talks to take place.
It seems like quite an opportunity for Nazarbayev.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously much closer with Russia than with the West, or I guess even with Turkey, even though this is a ethnically
He-
Turkic.
yeah, I would say he sits on 3 or 2 chairs at the same time. He's good with everybody.
So, I mean, it's quite an opportunity for him when there are issues that need to be balanced between Russia, the West, and Turkey.
And it's an image project for him. Kazakhstan is known for all those like Astana is an image project to put the country on the map of the world and make the world know about us. Like this summer there was an expo,
The new energy, or
the new future energy.
which is they're holding it in a
Yeah.
country that's known for its oil. I mean, this
No,
was
oil
all,
and gas.
This was all produced by.
When the when the oil cost $150 per barrel, that's where all the wealth came from that allowed for the construction of all this beautiful building. Let's call them beautiful buildings. Definitely interesting.
So, from your vantage point, this that we see behind us is little more than a project by Nazarbayev to glorify himself and create some everlasting image. Is that your perspective?
Well, it's going to be definitely part of his legacy, but also when Kazakhstan became independent in 1991, the capital was Almaty, which is in the south, really close to the border with Kyrgyzstan and China. It's located in the mountains. And he moved the capital to the north in 1997. I'm not sure about exact timing. He did it for a few reasons. The north was predominantly ethnic Russian and Russian speaking, so to mark the north as Kazakh and to prevent any possible like breakaways on the ethnic grounds in the future. So he did that. So a lot of he moved the capital further from the borders, which is good in like I guess in security terms. So in case of any invasion, you need the capital is quite far to reach. Also, it was image project. A lot of this was built to create a Kazakh dream. You know, there's American dream, this Kazakh dream. A lot of people of Kazakhstan, let's say, they really like this futuristic-looking buildings. That they shine so bright in the sun, and that they look good in the pictures because the south capital, the former capital, doesn't really have this kind of futuristic look. And since the country, it's the first time since when Kazakhstan became independent in its own history, it's always been a part of the Russian Empire or a part of the USSR. So to give a boost and a new image, to inspire the young generations to move here and take advantage of the educational opportunities. There are a lot of different schools and universities here. Beautiful sports facilities. The Asian Olympic Games were held here in 2010, I believe, where basically all Asian, it's kind of like an Olympics local version, which was kind of a big deal back then. And so, yeah.
So this is not the work of the Illuminati, despite
No,
all
I
the
really doubt it.
futuristic stuff, despite the alignment of the buildings, despite the sun, the pyramids.
Nazarbayev mentioned a few times that he really likes the idea that famous world-known architects have a construction site here. Like, for example, the shopping mall, Han Shatir, was designed by Norman Foster. The airport, as far as I know, was designed by Japanese architect Kisha Kurakawa. And there are a few more that famous architects that I don't know the names of them. But this was all built, they all put in their effort to build a city, and its design and how it interacts with each other. Yeah. So Illuminati probably, even if they did have an influence, maybe very little. And I don't think any person in Kazakhstan considers that conspiracy theory is something that the Illuminati did. Never heard of it.
No one walking around the streets of Kazakhstan.
Nobody thinks of Illuminati,
right.
no.
But But they do really like the gold. You were telling.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
seeing golden elevators. And
Golden
for instance,
elevators.
in the Biterik, and you're saying, oh, that's the Kazakh dream right there.
Well, it's more.
I don't know if that's derogatory. I mean, this is not a politically correct podcast, but if there are any Kazakhs out there who would like to say otherwise, I'm interested to hear your opinion as well, just as a side note.
I think it's a part of the Central Asian culture. The Silk Road was going through the territory of modern-day Kazakhstan, so the trade between the East and West was taking place, and
now China's constructing the new
Yeah.
Silk Road.
Silk Road.
Will that be going through
Kazakhstan.
Astana at all?
I think it will go through the south, and
Almaty,
also
probably.
it depends a lot on how the future unfolds. I don't know what's going to take place. I don't know what's going to happen after Nazarbayev. So,
Is there much Chinese influence here?
hard to say. I wouldn't say so. I think a lot of these buildings were constructed by Turkish companies. There are a lot of Turkish businesses that operate in Kazakhstan. So,
Is there increasing Turkish influence here?
Yeah. There's a park here in Astana named after Atatürk, and there's a monument to him in Astana here as well. You probably didn't know.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a monument of Atatürk.
There's the Sultanahmet Mosque.
Oh, there are
around-
two mosques. They're actually really beautiful. They were built recently. They have this traditional architecture, but they were built just recently. So one of them is called Nur Astana, and the other one is called Sultan Ahmed, I believe. So when you put the names of them together, you get the name Nur Sultan, just like the president.
His first name. His
Yeah,
first.
his first name, Nur Sultan Nazarbayev. His first name is Nur Sultan. And he's known not just as the president, but as the national leader, Yelbasi.
And I mean, those aren't the only things named after him. The airport is named after
Yeah.
the sitting president.
Yeah.
The main the Nazarbayev University is the main university in Astana, right?
Yeah, in Kazakhstan.
Oh, and all of Kazakhstan.
It's also known for like all the classes are taught in English. So, and it has it claims to have the best professors from all over the world that teach there.
With both the airport and the leading university in the entire country named after the sitting president, that gives you a bit of a perspective of, dare I say, the man's ego. And maybe that gives you somewhat of a better understanding or some context.
I wouldn't
as to
say
what-
that his ego is so inflamed. I would rather say that there are a lot of state officials around him that they made several attempts to rename the city after him, like Nur Sultan, Nur Kent, or something like that.
Do you think that will happen? in the
He
future?
refused. He rejected the idea. He didn't like it. So he probably likes the view from his White House, where his residence is, but I don't think it's that bad. Like the issue.
I beg to differ on the point that I think our view here is better than his view there, because we're perched above him. But
Well, I consider the building where we are as a prop for his view, not the other way.
So what I garner from you is that people here in Kazakhstan are generally pretty satisfied
Yeah.
with both Nazarbayev and life here.
Yeah, he provided stability when it was needed in the 90s, when a lot of when the breakaway there was a civil war in Tajikistan, in Moldova. He provided there was a war in Chechnya, in Russia. He provided stability. There was no military conflict going on. When there was a default in Russia in 1998, the Kazakh currency remained stable. He keeps providing stability now when, again, there's the crisis in Ukraine. Again, all stable. There are some economic hardship considered related to the devaluation of the currency, but overall, we're still good. And economic growth might be slow, but it is taking place.
So this is a parallel between Russian and Kazakh or Kazakhstani societies, that stability is really valued in the political sense. And I just came back from covering the election in Kyrgyzstan, which looks like it's going to make for the first peaceful transfer of power from one popularly elected president to another in Central Asia. And down there, they had a couple uprisings in 2005 and 2010, which led to the ouster of their first two popularly elected presidents, and over the course of all that, I mean, everything remained calm here, huh?
Yeah, I remember.
I guess that was during the oil boom.
The oil boom, yeah. I mean, there was so much money around, so everything was just flourishing. So there was, nobody still complains. Still, no complaints still.
And you were hinting at the thought that you might have some idea of what's going to happen after Nazarbayev. Do you?
Don't really know, but I would really want that he would have somebody that he would appoint to take place after him, probably his daughter. His daughter is right now in the parliament, and she's been part of the top ranking parliamentaries for a very long time.
There are presidential elections here.
No, not for him. Not for him.
Sort of. How explain?
There were. I think the last presidential elections were in 2006, and there was also which resulted in Nazarbayev taking 98% of the vote, which I believe that's how it was, because we were all happy with his role.
You think 98% of the country
Yes.
supports him?
Yeah.
Sort of.
I mean, I believe also that 92% of Russians support Putin, which might sound shocking to the Westerner, but that's how it is. So, hey, to believe that Nazarbayev had a 98% support in 2006, very easy for me.
Well, there are a lot of parallels between the situations here in Russia in terms of Putin and Nazarbayev being in power for so long, them being the sole leader figure, and what's going to happen in the future in terms of succession, which is a mystery.
Yeah, it is a mystery that I don't know the answer to, and considering that I live here, my parents live here, it's a little scared.
Are you personally concerned? Are your parents very
Yeah,
concerned?
every citizen of Kazakhstan is concerned what's going to happen after.
And he's pretty old now. What?
He's pretty
upper
old,
70s?
so
Or how old is he?
I believe he's going to hit 80 pretty soon. I mean, he is in good health, and there's no concerns about him not being fit for office. But it seems like he's going to stay in power until he dies. And I really hope that the current elites of Kazakhstan are not going to fight for power, because if there's a fight for power, that usually results in a bad outcome. Chaos. I mean, nobody wants that. So the general population is, I believe, from my own perspective and from what I can tell about others, we prefer peaceful transition of power to his successor, that he would either appoint personally or support during the elections.
And is there much of a concern about it being a democratic process, or people just don't really care? They just want to make sure that there's stability.
I believe the one who runs on the ticket of stability is the one who's gonna end peaceful transition of power, and economic stability and relative prosperity is the one who's gonna win.
And in the Russian community, what are there bigger concerns about this? Is there
and also the one who
will there-
runs on the ticket of interethnic peace, the one who's not gonna diminish the role of the Russian language, because as of right now, Russian is considered to be official, and
Are Russians in general leaving Kazakhstan?
yeah, slowly, but it's a slow migration. It's not it's not the way it happened in other post-Soviet states in the 90s, where Russian populations moved completely in 5 years after the breakup. Here, the migration goes slowly. It's mostly young people like me who move to Russia. There's a resettlement program sponsored by the Russian government that helps to resettle to certain regions, helps with employment, and students from Kazakhstan who graduate from Russian universities, they're given citizenship upon graduation. So it's a slow process. We're still very comfortable here, but yeah.
The impression I get walking around Astana as opposed to Almaty is that this is more of a Kazakh city, ethnically.
Yeah, probably.
In Almaty, almost everyone was speaking Russian, at least from what I heard.
Almaty is a city with a population of more than 1 million, while here it's probably 700,000 people. And Almaty being a megapolis for for many years been the capital of this Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic. So it really has this cosmopolite urban culture where you consider yourself a citizen of the city rather than the citizen of the country or anything else.
I did get that feel. I compared it to Odessa in Ukraine.
Yeah,
It's,
very good.
I mean, it's much different geographically in that Almaty's right up in the mountains or next to the mountains, and Odessa's down at the sea. But they both have this eclectic post-Soviet feel, and I think they've both been known for a long time as being some interethnic, multicultural type of place where Russian is spoken as the language.
Yeah,
But here, what you were explaining to me is that since Astana is such a new city, it's not like all the people, there are almost 1 million people living here, but it's not like they're all here. They're coming from other places, and you're telling me that they're mostly coming from rural areas.
So it has a lot of, this city has a lot of universities, and since it's quite a big city with a booming economy, so a lot of people from rural areas move here from the south or from the west of the country, which is predominantly Kazakh, and either go to school here or find a job, and that changes the ethnic distribution of the city. It used to be predominantly Russian before it was announced as a capital, but that changed pretty fast, and now I would say that it's mostly Kazakh, and Kazakh speaking as a result of migration. But I wouldn't say that the city as a capital has this capital feeling where you kind of the city is too young, and the people who were born here as a capital are just 18 years old right now, and so they didn't really grow up in a cosmopolitan environment.
20 maybe.
Yeah, like if you can't really pull it off as something like as a swag.
For tourists, particularly Westerners who want to come visit, they see the futuristic buildings, and they might hear from me that there's a cheap Wizz Air flight. Take note of that. From Budapest, another lovely city. Well, anyway, for the tourists who are coming here, what the heck should they see? What should they do?
Well, again, a lot of futuristic buildings. We have an oceanarium. Is that the right English word?
An aquarium?
A huge aquarium, like a huge one, the furthest from any ocean, like ever, with a lot of like sharks. So basically, something you would normally never see that far from the ocean. It has architecture. We had an exhibition expo just recently finished.
You're gonna take me to some, which was recommended by a friend as well.
So the shopping mall that was built for the cost of $90 million, which is like double the budget of my hometown, but we still built it.
90 or 19?
90 million dollars. On the top level, it has a beach. It costs $50 for 3 hours of spending time there, but it really has actual seawater and sand and.
My impression was that I haven't seen it yet, I'm about to, that this is a pool at the top level mall. But you're telling me
it's
this
not a pool.
This is a man-made.
There's a sand and there's a water
something.
And there are palm trees and it's warm. Like when it's gonna be minus 40 Celsius outside, you're still gonna get the beach atmosphere plus 25 inside. So it's really fun, especially when it's that cold, and it does get really cold here in winter.
I'm lucking out with the weather. I got fantastic weather in the south, and now yesterday it looked like it was going to be very stormy for the rest of the weekend, but today it's only cool and it's not windy at the moment, and this view has just gotten more and more spectacular. We will be wrapping up this podcast momentarily. Before we do, any last thoughts about Borat, Nazarbayev? Where?
Okay, very nice. I hope Nazarbayev will stay in power because I like him.
Yeah, I don't think there's a him. I think it's just I like.
Yeah.
I like.
And I think Kazakhstan. I don't think there's all the conspiracy theories of Illuminati. I think they're wrong. People just need to come here and see for themselves.
But what's a quick synopsis of why this is not some Illuminati base? Like hit me with a few points, maybe 5. Like Nazarbayev is building the Kazakh dream.
Kazakh is building a Kazakh dream that flying from Kazakhstan to anywhere is pretty expensive. So for a lot of people from the south or from, let's say, rural areas, they're never gonna see the world. Like the furthest they would probably ever travel would be Moscow, which is still pretty far, 5 hours or 4 hours by flight. So having these futuristic buildings over here creates a kind of like a Kazakh dream that they can come here, study here, settle here, get an apartment in this beautiful city, which is it is very beautiful and very comfortable.
I recommend getting an apartment here.
Yeah, it is very comfortable. It's very comfortable to live here. It has all the infrastructure. It has a lot of like sports facilities. It has a beautiful national theater and music schools. Everything here everything here for personal development is here and it's ready.
All right, but as far as why this isn't the Illuminati running the show, I mean,
I never heard it.
He's building the Kazakh dream. He wants to put
Kazakhstan on the map.
Globally.
There are a lot of English projects. Yeah, he wants Kazakhstan to be known as the heart of Eurasia. He was also actually, I don't know if you know, but the idea of the Eurasian Union, Economic Union and Customs Union was Nazarbayev's idea. He was pushing for this idea.
You're saying this is not Putin's project. This is
Nazarbayev. He was pushing for this idea even during Yeltsin times.
Before. Maybe we'll have to investigate this further in another edition.
Yeah, that was his idea. He was the founding father of the idea.
Actually, that's another point of this, because Almaty, it gets thrown around that Almaty is the heart, if not the capital of Central Asia. Mm-hmm. So
the financial capital would still be the south capital, the Almaty, while here diplomatic and actual capital.
It's still a bit of a trip to get over why he wants all these pyramids. I mean, there aren't all these pyramids. I listen to these videos on YouTube, and if someone out there has got some better stuff, please, I want to hear it. I want to hear it, because the people who are talking about Kazakhstan, they didn't know anything. They didn't even know how to pronounce Kazakhstan.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So I like.
Me too. Number 4.
Number 4 prostitute.
Of all Kazakhstan. I'm supposed to have a trophy that I can show you, but I don't have it.
Yeah. No, I haven't visited the number 4 prostitute of Kazakhstan. I can't give you a review on her. But I hope this was helpful in providing you not only a review on Kazakhstan, but a look at this glorious view we have, and give you some understanding of what the heck all this futuristic stuff is in Astana. Thank you very much for joining me. Spasiba большое. This was a fun edition of the FreeManCast. Any last words?
That was my first cast, so...
The first cast. Not only your first FreeManCast, it was your first cast
ever.
Well, I think there will be a second someday.
Yeah, definitely.
See you maybe in the US sometime. Or
in the US,
elsewhere in the world.
I might be in Moscow for the Putin's elections.
Please get me in.
Or,
I need a
last
visa.
word,
Mr. Putin.
Bet all your money on Putin. I guarantee he's gonna win.
Okay, you heard it here first. I don't know who's betting on the other horses.
I saw the agencies that actually take bets for the Russian presidential elections, and I think it's quite a bad business strategy to allow it.
Okay, that's it. До свидания.
До свидания.
Bye-bye.
Спасибо.